So, as you heard, my name is Vladimir Vukadinović. Doesn't sound really Hungarian because I'm not Hungarian. I'm coming originally from Serbia. So, sorry, my Hungarian language skills are not on the level that I can deliver presentation in that language, so it's going to be only in English. And today I'm going to talk something about the scope of operations me and my team is covering within Sanofi, and that's Automation Center of Excellence. So, for today, I have a few topics for you guys here. We're going to discuss about the new trends in automations and the modern business, something about the structure of the team that I'm leading and what we did in Sanofi regarding to automations. Then we are going to talk about automation ideas and how we materialize those ideas into final automation solution that's called robot for us. And we are going to have at the end some interesting use case, a demo of the robot in live production, how it works for one of our finance clients that we delivered. Now, something about the modern trends. Estimates from the World Bank Group, famous institution, says, but that by the end of these decades, we are going to have decline in people of working age by 3%. So that means we are going to have shrinking labor force by 3% by the end of this decade only. If you are talking about the sector in which Sanofi belongs, healthcare, 40% of nurses are currently considering leaving their profession. I don't think it's much different situation also in Hungary in healthcare. Estimate is that at least 37,000 physicians or doctors will be missing in the next 12 years, only in US. And more than 2 million unfilled jobs in manufacturers will be expected only in US by the end of this decade. From McKinsey, which is also one of the top consulting companies, there is an estimate that if you want to keep the pace, current pace in economical growth, we will need to increase the productivity for 1.5 times compared to what we have now. So what is the challenge? You have less resources, less people, less skillful people, and you need to get more. Of course, the change of the business model, how the companies are performing, needs to be drastically changed. Now, what are the major challenges of modern companies? So, about research that was done by Hackett, also consulting agency, benchmarking agency, 93% of business leaders are actually not able to cope with the demand to increase the profits and decrease the costs in the same time. 54% of them that were interviewed are saying that they need to drastically improve process efficiencies and transform their processes to increase the customer satisfaction. And you have one very interesting fact that many companies are trying to do it by implementing new tools, new applications to challenge actually and to mitigate these pain points and risks and issues. On average, we have almost 1,000 applications that are being run for an average enterprise. You know how much does it cost to run 1,000 applications for all reasons? I will tell you one secret. Sanofi has 2,300 applications running for maintaining its own operations. So you have a challenge to decrease the costs, increase the profits, improve the processes, but also not to get up, not to get this technological depth side grows dramatically. In order to do it, actually to mitigate these issues, currently 80% of the companies are investing either in automation or AI to transform their operating model. And this is actually why my team comes to the story when we talk about Sanofi. With the same issues we were facing a few years ago when the team that I'm leading was formed. And actually what we did, so we started with one person, that was me, obviously, a few years ago. My current team size is 9 automation analysts and project managers, plus we have in addition 20 developers that are working to us on developing the automation solutions. So that means the total team size is 30. Our project portfolio includes robotic process automation projects based on Automation Anywhere as a software provider, any kind of low-code automation such as SAP enhancements, for example, and implementation of cognitive tools, so-called AI machine learning projects. This is something that we added to our portfolio last year. So what we did in last 5 years and what we currently have, we have 165 automation running in production for Sanofi business. What we managed to do with these automations, what is the benefit of those automations? 124,000 recurring man hours saved per year. Or if I would calculate it only to the, let's say, full-time employee equivalent, 92 people. So we automated such amount of tasks that if I don't have automation in place, if we didn't have it at all, or if we decide to stop it, we will need to hire additional 92 people, 92 colleagues to perform these manual tasks again. Majority of our automations are lying within finance operations, financial processes, order to cash, purchase to pay, accounts to report, controlling, HR operations. But we steadily started scaling up our business, actually our scope to the Sanofi as an enterprise. So pretty much we are now coping with a lot of demand coming from vaccines manufacturing sites, research development, sales, operations, marketing, pharmacovigilance, regulatory, etc., etc. Something about the way how we approach ideas that we receive from the business and how we materialize those ideas to create the automation solution. So for you guys that don't know what RPA is, abbreviation, it stands for robotic process automation. So we are not talking here about the robots, mechanical robots that you might see in manufacturing, car industry, even in pharmaceutical. When we produce the medicine, we use the mechanical robots. We are talking about software or a service, let's call it like that, program, if it's easier for you, which allows you to interact with any application or website exactly in the same way the human user is doing. To automate complex rule-based work, the robot is able to mimic any human steps, and it can be attended and not attended. So what does it mean? If you have some repetitive task that you can do, that you are doing constantly, let's say you constantly need to go to some specific website, scroll, gather the information, download the information, populate some into some target location, the data that you're saving, a robot can do it. If you're doing finance, accounting operations, and you're using applications such as SAP or Oracle, which is the most popular for booking invoices, for example, and there is a standard way how you can do it, we can train the robot with the same accesses that human user has to perform the same tasks every day, every minute, every holiday, or whenever you want to schedule it. It can be unattended or attended. What does it mean? You can trigger the robot if you wish, manually, to perform the task, or what we usually do in Sanofi, we have unattended robots that are pre-scheduled to do in regular intervals the tasks that should be performed by the human user. Now, what RPA or what robotic process automations are in scope, and what kind of activities or tasks those robots can perform? Maybe some of them are familiar with you, but okay, I will go to that one by one. So pretty much download any email attachments, reading any kind of email, log into any kind of web application, software, or whatever the human users are doing to perform their tasks. Move files from one location to another, copy, paste, filling any kind of forms or templates, read and write to database, ERP systems. It can also, I will not go through full list, but pretty much connect to any kind of interfaces that the applications might have, make any kind of calculations, extract semi-structured or non-structured data, collect any social media contact, follow any kind of predefined rules, what it should be done for the specific process. Okay, sorry. So once we receive idea, there is a standard way how we approach in order to assess whether our idea is a good fit for automation for robot or for any other kind of automation that might be performed. We have so-called SOR approach, something similar all the companies have. So it's not something unique for Sanofi, but we call it SOR. So A stands for eliminate, S standardize, optimize, automate, and robotize. What does it mean? Once you receive the process and see how it looks like, let's say the simple process onboarding new joiners to the company. So maybe some of you will join to Sanofi. We see how the process currently looks like. There is a way, which kind of data should be there, personal data of employee, the position for which employee was hired, grading of the positions, bank details, etc., depending on the country. First, what we see, we try to eliminate and make the process as lean as possible. any unnecessary steps that we see to try to eliminate before we go to automation point. Standardize, what does it mean for us? Sometimes we receive ideas from specific countries, departments, but we are always looking how to scale it up, either to a country scope, regional scope, or even global idea if the process is done globally. Then optimize in terms of using existing IT landscape and eliminating any kind of dependencies, any kind of customizations that the tools or applications have if they're being used by different users in different regions or countries. Now, difference between automate and robot, as everyone is asking me, what is the difference there? So once we see the case for us and once we see how the process looks like, our first step will not be the robot. It will be to see how we can automate using the features that that application already has. If you're talking about HR, we are using Workday. Workday has a lot of embedded reporting, automatic reporting features that you can use even without having a robot. Even for SAP, Salesforce, or any other tool that we have. Of course, when we investigate and exhaust all these ideas, we go to the final step, robotize, where we actually mimic what the human user is doing. And you will see that when we come to the point of showing you the demo. Exactly what the human user is doing on a click level, we train the robot to do in the same way as much as time is required to be done. Now, when we look about what cases are good fit for automation or not, pretty much we have our so-called decision tree. First of all, we are looking whether the process is highly manual and repetitive. Then, if there are any rule-based, if it's rule-based, if it's done the same time all the time, or pretty much similar. Whether it consists any kind of readable electronic input files, Excels that are readable, PDFs, Word documents. Let's say, for example, of onboarding of new joiners, if I can come back again to that point. So, is it highly manual, repetitive process? Pretty much yes. I'm not sure for each country, but it's done. There are rule-based. There are key fields that you should populate in Workday when every new joiner is joining our company. The inputs should be readable and standard. That means either requests for onboarding new joiners are coming in some standard template, which can be Excel, which can be PDF, it can be Word, but it should be a standardized template, it should be readable. If not, we need to implement any kind of process improvement on our side. That means going back to that SR approach before the process is ready and good fit for automation. Of course, low exception rate, and less exceptions you have, the code will be lighter, so you'll be investing much more or much less energy in developing automation solution. High process volumes, of course. When we see the process, we are always seeing how much actually benefits that's bringing to the company. If we see that the process is done once in a quarter or once in a year, there is no point to develop a robot for such a small scope. Or let's say the robot is automating the process that takes usually 2 hours per month. Why would you do a robot and develop robots and spend 3-4 months to do it for such a small scope? So there should be some business case. Of course, as I mentioned, if there are any kind of minor automations to be implemented before we come to robot, we investigated that scope. And if we see there are no any changes required on native applications, how you perform the process, you would like to do it exactly the same way, we did the same tool, we implement the robots. If we need to change the way how we interact with the tool, we are rather using some other technologies such as API integrations. I will not stay too much on this slide. Too many letters, too many stages. But just to give you an overview, we have a framework how we execute the projects, and this is an industry standard, I would say, for pharmaceutical industry. I know that other companies, especially in automotive industry, they can deliver faster their robotic process automation solutions, just because they are facing with the industry that is less, I would say, audited compared to what we have in pharma industry. But for us, usually when we have all necessary requirements, when we investigate and see that the process is fit for automation, we might need 1 to 2 weeks to do the recordings, get the quotations from the developers, the time and cost estimates, prepare the business case. Once we receive the go, we need a couple of weeks to get all the accesses that we need for the robot to work and create all the necessary documentation approvals. It usually takes 6 to 12 weeks to develop a robot end-to-end, depending on how complex it is, and it's followed up with a couple of weeks of hypercare. Once we move the robot to production, we are actually monitoring strictly whether that robot is performing as expected and doing eventually the fixes if it's needed. So, as I mentioned, the boring part is finished. Now I'm going to show you actually how the robot really works on one specific case that we did, I would say 2 months ago, quite recently. So it's not a complex bot. It took us 6 weeks to develop it. So I'm not going to show you some rocket science now here. I think it's going to be understandable. But just to give you a hint, what process is it about? And what was actually the challenge for us? So the process is for order to cash department, so finance department that we have within Sanofi. They have highly manual tasks, so a few thousand transactions that were needed to be processed per month. On average, it was, if one person would do that job, it would take 5 to 6 hours per day, every day, to complete this task. It's quite, I would say, quite repetitive, non-value added task, but it needs to be done. Therefore, the task was not even performed as it should be, so people were skipping to do it, they were not interested to do it, but the job was need to be done anyway. There was another challenge, decision to move that process from Budapest, where we performed these operations, to Bogota Center, to be closer to the US market for which the process was performed. So what we did the full assessment, standardized the process, implemented the standard input file to meet the business need with all the necessary fields that they need for the process, and we trained the robot to take the data from input file and populate in this system to target application called SAP. So the impact, as I mentioned, 1,100 man-hours saved per year. That means if you don't have this solution, someone will need to be hired, almost one full person to do this job every day. In addition, we actually increased the frequency of performing this task, so rather of being performed ad hoc, like it was until now, we have scheduled this robot to run twice a day. So getting all this information, populating all the fields that are necessary, and having the accurate data as soon as possible. Of course, expected performance that we track, 99% of all transactions are always successfully processed by the robot, and of course, increased customer satisfaction due to improved process that we have. Just again, before I show you the video, what the robot is supposed to do. So robot is trained to look for new email requests that are coming from human users from the business, find the necessary attachment that needs to be there in specific form, read the attachment, validate that all mandatory fields are there, log into it, send a notification email to the business that the robot started its job, start logging into SAP and adding line by line all the data to specific transaction. After the job is completed, it needs to add success status for each line, processed or not processed, with the reason why it's not. Attach the file to the email and send it back to the requester. That means to the person or business who sent the request to the robot. So every bot has its own virtual machine where it works. Reading the parameter, okay, you can read it, but I can also repeat. So tracking what is written in the email box. So this is done in the background, so you cannot see this part. Now the robot is logging into SAP with its own credentials. Just see how fast the robot is able to do this. So I intentionally slow down, first maybe 30 seconds, just to show you what exactly the robot is doing, because it wouldn't be visible. So validating the input file that was sent, entering transaction code in which the process should be done, posting transactions line by line. Please pay attention to the speed. So imagine the human user who is doing that, going, entering, and all the time, next transaction and posting. Just check the speed. So it is a bit copy-pasting job. And we are going to talk about 380 lines that were submitted to robot. On average, 1 minute was required from human user to process it per line. 380 lines, more than 6 hours. This video is 2 minutes only. Sure, yeah, soon it will be completed. Yeah, again, we are slowing down just to show you a few additional transactions that robot needs to post. creating document numbers, updating the Excel file with the status, sending summary to SME, means subject matter expert or a business in our case. And that's done. Let me just check. 2 minutes, 20 seconds, 380 lines. Compare it to 6 hours of manual job being done by a human user. Compare it to how satisfied would be someone to do this job every day for 6 hours. So this is one good, I would say, good example of what a robot can do, what kind of activities we can do, and what are the benefits. Not only, I'm not talking about the hours being saved, but you see how fast it's done on demand. Imagine that you get the request from someone, do it. And someone answers you, I will do it tomorrow because I don't have time to do it now, even if I start. A robot can do it in 2 minutes. It can do it faster, it can do it whenever it wants, whenever it's scheduled, of course, and it reduces, it takes this kind of monotonous tasks from our colleagues to focus on something that is more value added. That's, like, I would say, additional benefit that we are bringing, focusing and assigning our people to something that is more challenging and increasing their satisfaction rather than doing these monotonous tasks. Do you have any questions before I go to the last slide? Everything was clear? Okay. Actually, the last one is just, just the point that I would like to ask you guys. If you have a mobile phone and you have internet access, can you please turn on your cameras and go to this barcode here? It will bring you directly to our company website, career website, so we can see what kind of positions we have currently open. There are many opportunities there. So what you will see is current, you will see current openings. So you'll see positions for chemists, you might see positions that are for people with financial background, economics, you will see positions that are related to IT as well. But it's not only that. So we are a pharmaceutical company, we might have additional roles in the future. So it would be good that you see what you have there. If you are interested, please apply. Even if you don't have experience, please apply. Guys, I'm not an IT expert. I'm economist, believe it or not. I studied economics in the 4th biggest city in Serbia, nothing special, with a major in management. I started doing, my first job was Đakornok 13 years ago here in Budapest for one company, other company. And pretty much my job was focused on finance, and I hated finance. But I became a team leader. After that, I became a transition manager, which is really senior role, meaning that you're organizing the transfer of the jobs between different locations, including visiting the clients and staying for a couple of months there. And since last few years, and if I say what was my scope, HR operations, transitions, IT services, finance, even pharmacovigilance, where I don't have any experience. And now I started actually for a couple of years, I'm in this area which is called robotics and automations. So even if you don't have experience, but you really think that that some positions might be a good fit for your future aspirations, give a try. Richard Branson, maybe you heard about him, the owner of Virgin Galactic and one of the richest UK businessmen. He has one famous quote that I really like. If you get one opportunity, a great opportunity that you think is great for you, and you don't know how to do that job, say yes and try to do it later. Try to learn it later. So, guys, please have a look. You have also our space here, Sanofi, with our great colleagues. You have also our stand in the other building K. So, if you need more information, you have a website, or you have our dear colleagues, or you have here our talent acquisition manager as well. So you can freely approach us, you can freely approach me, we can share all the information that we have. Thank you very much once more.